data, I will place 0, and I will place here text. The only thing which you can think now, what is the 0? And the 0 here, this 0, it's referencing to the okay, I will just paste this code to all of you in the comment if you want to just you will have it here. And if you have this code, then the only thing which you don't understand, it's what is this 0 meaning. And the 0 is referencing to the position of the input. So since this pmanager add text parameter is the first one, the first input which I created, so maybe I can place it after. So this is the 0 input. So this, if I will create more inputs, the next one will be 1, 2, and 3. So then I will have to place here 0, 1 or 2. The same is here in the output parameters. This is 0 index of output forum. So this 0, it's referencing to the number or the position of the text parameter. Okay, so I think the whole thing it's made. So I will just build this solution. I will click build, and I have the information. First plugin C user as something something something, which is the address which I created, has been copied, and build has been succeeded. But as you can see, generally this address, it's not really corresponding to my Rhino folder in which I have all the plugins, and generally when I have the Rhino. So how does the Rhino will know that I built my component? I will show you one thing that I will close my Rhino 6, and all of you should also close it. And remember to save the work if you have been doing there something. I will go for the project and first plugin properties. So project first plugin properties. Take a look there, because this is quite important. First plugin properties, and now you have the things like application, build events, debug resources, and stuff like this. The most important thing which I want to talk about right now is the build events. If you go here, you have a code here. If you don't have, you should have it, but it should be solved by the template which you download from Grasshopper. And it is saying that okay, that the project name and generally the target of this project, which was declared when we described the Rhino, will be changed from DLL to GHA, which is the component folder. So right now, if I will go for the build, I see that output path, it's bin. I will change it because I don't want to have it in my bin. I want to have it, let's see when I want to have it. I want to have it in somewhere when Rhino will read it. So I will go into program files. I don't remember if, yeah, Rhino 6 is in program files. And then we have a plugins. So I will go here. All of you should try to find this. I am not sure if all of you have it in this exactly folder, but you should find the folder with your Rhino 6. And if you will find the folder with Rhino 6, then it should be a plugins folder there. So I want to use this plugin, so I will just select it. Right now it's C program files Rhino 6 plugins, and I will rebuild my solution. So I will go for the build and build my solution. Right now I will go to this folder. So program files, Rhino 6, plugins, and there is a lot of files, but there is my first plugin with the ending of GHA, which makes it quite easy to read by the Rhino. So I will type Rhino now. I will type Grasshopper. And oh my gosh, it is here. It's a PC 2021, my first component, first plugin, which will be able to read anything and take it the input as an output. So if I will type it is working, it will make it here. And as you can see, you cannot enter it, so it's completely closed. So if you are afraid that I didn't, okay, there is some question, very good. That this means that somebody is working. I didn't manage to run or build solution. Could you go through that again? No problem, Marie. We will go it. We will show you this again until everybody will get it. So first of all, um, I will just, even if you have closed everything, then I'm going for the first plugin component on the my right side. This is your component. So if you somehow lose it, it is here. Then sometimes if you are clicking build solution, he is saying he cannot run it or 0 files copied. This means that your Rhino it's working right now, and you cannot. You have to close the Rhino and Grasshopper before you will start doing it. If you have this error like super unable to copy file, then unfortunately you have to run your Visual Studio as administration. So I will turn off the Visual Studio and right click on it, Visual Studio 2019, run as administrator. I don't know why Microsoft is not allowing us to do such things, or per definition, we should be administrators of our computer. But if we don't have access to something like this, then probably this will solve the issue. So one more time, run this. Visual Studio community as an administrator, and then build your solution, the Rhino, and your administrator. You should also delete or close Rhino and Grasshopper. And now I can build it. One file copied, one file succeeded. If you go into the first plugin properties, again, project, first plugin properties. Then the only thing which you have to, yeah, it worked. I know I have this issue for some. I also survived this issue, so it's quite common, quite annoying. And then here output path should be your Rhino plugins folder. Sometimes you can also put it into the Grasshopper folder, but I, I recommend you to put it in your Rhino 6 plugins folder. So I hope, did it work for you? Raise your hand if you have your first component in the, okay, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my gosh, I am good. uh, Yeah, seems like if somebody has a problem, I hope Mari has solved it is working for you. So yeah, so probably either the closing of Rhino, either so of course this is kind of the strange that we okay, let's now close your Rhino, close your Grasshopper, leave just Visual Studio. Be sure that you open it as an administrator, and if you have done this, let's not build the solution, but let's click on here on start. So what will happen, that Visual Studio will try to internally run the Rhino and Grasshopper. So it start Rhino without me clicking and opening it. I just have to type Grasshopper. Okay, somebody has got an error. Okay. Yeah. So Sphere is looking at it, so you will have answer in a second. And then if we go for the PC 2021, and now I will go for the creating some panel. And make it 1, and it is 1. Now, if I go for the Visual Studio, I see on the right side something has changed. The processing memory has changed. It's appeared the window with the processing memory, so we can see how fast our plugin is working. We can also see how much CPU is it working. As we see, we create a perfect component because it's not very demanding for the CPU. But let's try to change it during running our code. If we will do it like this, that I would like to make a string text 1, which is new text, all line it's turning into green. He's saying that you cannot provide these changes until the application is running. We don't have to kill the Rhino and Grasshopper. The only thing which we have to do is click on this break all pause button. If we will click on this pause button, the application is in the break mode. I understand that. I'm coming back to my first plugin component. So from this one, I am clicking on the first plugin component, and now I can modify the code. And you see the Rhino, it's still opened, but it's frozen. I cannot enter Rhino or a Grasshopper. Let's I will just make text 1, new text, and instead of taking default text, I will make text 1 as the outcome. Now I will continue. So I change the code and I will run, click on continue. So I click continue, and it seems like it didn't work because I would like to have this new text, but it only because I have to recompute the setting. So right now, no matter what I will put here as an input, generally I have a new text which is um, when you are doing you are running the Visual Studio, you can modify the components, but it would not be preferably to change the input and output numbers. I think at least in the older versions it was not possible. In this I think it's possible, but it sometimes making some errors. So if I want to make more inputs and more outputs, let's maybe try to make it with just by stopping debugging. So I will stop it, and now I will introduce more input and outputs, or maybe I will just leave it as it is, and I will create a new component for my plugin. So I will right click on the first plugin with my mouse button, and I will choose something which is called add. So I will again right click on the first plugin and then add and new item. And I will search for my Grasshopper, empty Grasshopper component. It is this one. And I already can call it here. Even I recommend you to do it. It will be second plugin component. I will click enter. And on my right side, I now have first plugin component and second plugin component. How do you show the line numbers? I never have a problem with this. Like I never make them disappear. So I have no idea how to turn them on. Maybe somewhere in the view. Strange. I will check that during the pause and let you know. Um, okay, but we have the second plugin component. And this second one we would like to create also in the exactly the same category. So in the first one we have a first plugin, ASP, first code ever, PC 2021, simple. I will go and type the same things here. So I will just copy it from the first plugin component. So I am marking those things and going into second plugin component, and I will just paste it here. So this time I will manually change them. Second plugin, SP, which will be second plugin, second code ever, PC 2021, and simple. I want to stay it with this one. Okay, so I will just copy you this one to the chat box. And this is for the second, but it's not really so important because these are just the name, the strings. Now we will try to create something more difficult. We will go into P Manager and we'll try to create a list like a series. So let's go for the first thing. I want to add integer parameter. GH_param access item. As you see, I just put empty apostrophes, then I go for the third one, which I type GH_param item. I just prefer to do it like this to be sure that I have a correct number of inputs. If you, for example, would forget about this and leave it like this, it will make it into green. So I unfortunately have to order them properly in the order sense. So the first one has to be exactly the same as in the description. First is string name, the second nickname, the third description, and the fourth is the param access. So here I would like to have a count. Here I would like to have a shortcut which is C and the number of elements. The next one, P Manager, will be responsible for the span. So it should be something like double, but I cannot find it because the Grasshopper plugin is using number. So the double and float, it's hidden in the number name. So add number parameter. Again, I like to do it in this way. Param access. Sorry. And semicolon. And here I will call span as division between numbers. And lastly, I think in the classic series, we have also a start. So I just copy paste here as T and first number in the list. Seems like I have everything here. The missing part is the output. So I will go for the output, P Manager, add a number parameter because I want to have a list of doubles. And then I need to introduce again 3 strings and 1 GH_param access. And this time be careful because I am using not an item but a list. So I type list and here we will call it series as series of numbers. So let me take it into the comments. This is the inputs and the next one is the output. So if you don't have it, you can just copy paste it from the chat box in the Teams meeting. Later, I will paste it also to the mural to be sure that every one of you have it, and also that it will not disappear with the deleting this meeting. And again, we have to start our code. So DA we need to create, but first of all, we have to declare variables. First of all, variable will be double, which is called start. I will set it to 0. Double span, I will set it to 1, for example. And also I need an integer, which is called count. And I will set it as 2. So those are variables which I will be using. Now I will deal with the inputs. So DA get data 0. The first one was count. So here I will just reference to count. DA get data 1. Reference to the second is a span. And DA get data referencing to the last one. It's the start. So as you can see, order of those elements doesn't care. The order of the 0, 1, 2, it's referencing to those numbers. So maybe to not make a by mistake you thinking that those 0, 1, 2 it's something corresponding to this. It's not. This 0 is corresponding to the first position of the input here. This is first one, and this is the second one, or sorry, the second and the third one, because we are counting from 0. Okay, so we are having those numbers. Now we would like to do something with it. So code list double series new, and look how much faster is writing in the Visual Studio. It's automatically helping us with choosing the the name of the type of the element. It's also suggesting some the best possible properties. So also the Visual Studio is a little bit teaching. So with our work, so he's also trying to give us some tips. Okay, so we have a series. We need to have a for loop. All of you have this for loop in your small finger already, so we can just get to the action. And we have I slower than count, I plus plus. So we already have a loop, and now series. Just to make it work, so I will type series dot add, and here I will place I. I know that this is not the finished code, but first of all, I want to check if it's generally running. So DA set data list this time. So here I will stop for a second. You will be able to see that I am choosing set data list. I am opening the brackets and saying 0, series. Yeah, not a big code. I will give you it in the chat box. So if you have a problem with it, you can just take a look on it. And let's try to run it. I will just click start. You see that the process memory, it's on the beginning a little bit bigger because we are starting, and I have to type a Grasshopper. I will show you a tip how to not type Grasshopper every time you are doing it, but later. And in the PC 2021, yeah, we have two plugins. First one, it's this one. The second one, it's this one. Well, the second one is very looking on a complicated one. We have a count, span, and start. Okay, let's see. Also, if you go over it, you see here is a number of elements written under the count. It means that this is exactly a description which we provide in Visual Studio here. Number of elements. This is the text. So under the span S, you should have division between numbers. And this CSST, it's generally coming if you go for the display and draw full names. You will so I will turn off drawing full names. I will have those short names. So draw full names. Second plugin series. Let's try if it's working. 0, 5, 12. Let's make a count of 12. Span 5. Start from 0. Panel. So I have a list of the plugin. Of course, the span and start are not reacting yet. We have to introduce the code um, uh, which will be running those two. Okay, let's then do this. I am coming back to Visual Studio without closing Grasshopper and Rhino. I am pausing it. I'm going for the first plugin, second plugin component. It's our second plugin. And in the add, I will make something maybe this double element equal to start plus I multiply by span. And then I will place the element. So now if I will continue and right click refresh or right click recompute, sorry, suddenly my component starts to work. Let's see how fast it is corresponding to the series. Let's go for the count. I will go for the step and start exactly the same. And in the display, canvas widgets, profilers is turned on. I just need to create a really big count. 200,000. Sorry, this should be coming here. So series, it's still faster. And the second plugin, it's a little bit faster than we tested before, but it's still 5 times slower than the series which we got. We will try to solve it tomorrow to make it as fast as series, but right now let it be like this. Now, what we will do, we will create a little bit more. We will create some more advanced plugin. So it will be our third plugin today. Yeah, it's amazing. Just 1 hour of working, and we have already 2 plugins, 2 components in one plugin. Okay, we'll make a break, maybe 5 minutes. If anybody has a question, he can just either privately, either just a question on the chat box. Okay, so 5 minutes. We are coming back at 13:55. Okay, there is a question. It is private, but I will make it general because somebody asked how to make the second component, or generally how to appear the second component. I will stop debugging for a second, and here I am clicking on the first plugin, right click, and click add, and then new item, and I am searching for the empty Grasshopper component for v6. So right click on the first plugin, then add new item, and then empty Grasshopper for v6. You can make as many components and classes as you want in one namespace or one plugin format. Okay, let's move on because I think it's super interesting. Raise your hand if you have two components. If you have two components working. So those of you who have it, just raise your hand. Or okay, yeah. Um, Not so much, but I think at least somebody is trying to follow. Then let's make something a little bit more complicated, and also let's see the power of the Visual Studio. So how to make it more why we are generally using Visual Studio? That's the good maybe question now, which we'll try to answer. You know from Bunchi lesson from today that we have something like which is a method, which is can be translated as mathematical function. So we are giving some inputs and we are receiving some outputs. Let's right now try to make a third plugin, which will be using methods. So I will go for the add new item empty Grasshopper component. Third plugin component. Again, this part I will just copy either from first, either from second. I will take it from the first because I want to have all those third plugin components into one place. So first plugin will change into the third plugin TP first code ever. No, it's not anymore true. It's third code ever PC 2021. It's okay, but not simple. We'll make it intermediate, or I'm not sure how to write it properly, but hope it is okay. Register input params. That's I will zoom in maybe to make it more visible. And now the same story. We will have view manager add, and this time let's take a number, but we will of course make names soon. But what I want to have here, gh param access I will put with the dot and take the list. So this time I will take a list, not an item, but a list. And I will just name it list number, or just numbers. Maybe it will be like this. And list of double numbers. The outcome I would like to be at the moment pmanager add point parameter. So I want to take two list of numbers and make a points out of it. Maybe we will just put as an x coordinate those numbers. So again, three strings which will be responsible for the name and description, and then go for the GA param access and list. So this time I am using only lists, and here I will type points pts list of points. Okay, so we have it here, and now we would like to have it take it to our code. So first of all, we'll declare some variables. List double numbers equal to new list double. Now we will go for the inputs. DA get data, but this time remember list 0 numbers. And look here, I didn't use reference because reference can be only for the one object. If you are using a list, you cannot reference to it. So this is something which you have to remember. But if I will type reference, the good thing that he will say it is a small error here. So when it was a get data, then you had to introduce a ref when it's a list or a tree. If you will be using a tree, then don't use reference. Now I need the let's set also the code. So I need list of points. So I will type list point 3D. PTS equal to new list of points. And this time, yeah, and let's set it the outputs. DA set data list 0 PTS. Okay, the code, it's not complicated. I will just copy the whole code to you. If you want, you can just paste it. The only thing what I will do now, I will just start the code. Okay, so we have a Grasshopper. Let's go for our plugins, and we see that here are those two first one which are simple. Intermediate, it's here. So you now know where is going the name in the when you are describing the plugin. The second thing, so this here, it's declaring what is written here. So the first plugin, it's creating points, or he needs some the list of numbers. Let's use our first or second plugin. So I will just take 5 as a count, 5 as a span, and 0 as a start, just to be sure if it's working or not. We have a list of points. I will connect it to the numbers. And I have the empty outcome. Of course, it should be like this because I didn't make anything in the code to make those points appearing. But as I was saying, if the input and outputs are not changing, generally I don't have to get out of the Rhino. So I can just now stop, break all, come back to my third plugin component. I will just delete the second and the or not delete, but just kill the window. And now I will go to the code in my third one. So I have a PTS, and now I would like to make a loop over the numbers which I have here. So alternatively to what I have as a for loop, I could now state that integer I equal to 0, I smaller than numbers count. This I could do, I plus plus, but yeah, or maybe let's do it like this, and I will show you both version of doing it. So we have a for loop. Now let's make points. So PTS add, and I will write down PT, but I have to declare it first, so I can write point 3D PT new point 3D brackets 000. And as you can see, this part, it's generally declaring a variable which will be used here. But this variable needs some constructor to say to the debugger, hey, I want to create a new point. But we don't really need this PT, this declaration of the variable, because we can directly say that when we are creating an item, a new item which we want to add to the list, let's make here a new point 3D. So in general, I can just take this part of the code, which is responsible, it's a constructor for a point, Control C, and paste it here. And this one, it's not really needed. Sometimes it's useful to make variable for every constructor, but sometimes the code is cleaner when you are not using it. So I will type I here. So now he will create a new point uh, with the I as a x coordinate and set it as a list. So I will continue with the code, see if it's working, if I didn't lie to you. And yeah, I have it here, and I also have it in Rhino. So you see, it's generally reacting. Yeah. Um, right now it's not reacting on the span, it's just on the count because he's taking the count. So let's make it reacting also to the span. Let's go back to our code, and here, as far as you get, you could as you catch it, you could now say double span equal to numbers I, and of course I should break then and paste here span. So I am achieving a list of points which are exact with the x coordinate exactly as the list of doubles which I'm giving as an input. I will continue, recompute, and now my points are reacting to the number of points and also to start and the span. Okay, so I have points. Let's go back here. So new point span 0, 0, 0. But again, I was using here double span equal to numbers I. I could just, instead of doing that, do like this. I will just break and continue, and the whole algorithm will be working completely the same. So as you can see, I can make code more comprehensive, but also sometimes it's also it's dangerous, because when I'm coming back to this code after a few weeks or months, it's hard to read this code. So I recommend all of you to make as much comments, and especially on the beginning, and also as much variables as possible, but name those variables wisely. So don't use just a list. If this is a list of numbers, you can just type even a list of numbers. It's better to even to name variables quite smart, to not make so many comments later. Okay, so we have a numbers, and now I will try to make it a little bit differently. I don't know if Bunji show you, but I hope you know it. To make comment, yeah, so he didn't, yeah, that's completely fine. Generally, if you want to comment one specific line, you are using 2 slashes, but if you want to comment a whole part of the code, you are putting a slash and star. And to turn off commenting, you are putting again the star and the slash. So now we will use a different loop, which is called for each. And we will say for each double, let's call it n, in numbers. This is very quick loop. Let's see. Yeah, it's working. So you see that for each double n in numbers, so in list of numbers, I will take specific mm, item starting from the 0 till the last one. And now I want to put this n pts, sorry, add new point 3d, and here will be n 0 0. So it's, I think, the simplest loop which you can get. It's just going through all the elements in the list, and it's faster than for, because you don't have to create the integer which will be jumping over the elements. So if you would try to compare the speed of those 2 loops, for each will be always a little bit faster if you know how to use it properly. So the problem can be that sometimes you don't know what kind of the variable it is in the list, but you can always in that case use the var, because var will read it for you. So although it's not declared as a type, he will use var as a variable and try to change it to double. And he managed to do it. If he will not manage to use var, he will definitely let you know about this. I am saying he about the Visual Studio. I am personalizing my software. It's maybe dangerous, but if you spend so much time within, maybe it's the only solution. Okay, let's go into the code. Let's recompute, and we see that generally it's working the same with the uh, for each with the for each as it was working with the for. Okay, but this was just an introduction. Let's try to make a method now. So you know that you were creating a methods with the Bungie. So now we can say that we have maybe to make it clear. Remember when I was using this plus minus to hold the whole class in one place? Then if I will plus, and I will like step by step start to close my my classes which was created during this creating of the workshop, we see that generally this is a naming of our component. This is responsible for the inputs. This is responsible for the outputs. This is the main code which is running. Here you can create an icon for your plugin, and here you have a GUID number, which is individual for any component. So if you create another component in your each one of three components which we created for our plugin has a different GUID number. So don't try to just copy paste those components, like right click and copy. You could, but if you will do it, um, remember about later change this GUID number to individual one. Okay, I will come back and open all of them, but we generally create our methods after solve instance. I like to make it before the icon, because this I treat as something which always have to be declared. So my methods I like to add directly after the solve instant. Okay, let's make a method. So I will type. Okay, sorry, I have to break. Break the working of the algorithm, not the workshop. I will close it also. So this time I will use the red button, which will kill Rhino and Grasshopper, and I will create the method. So let's make that I would like have a double, um, and let's name it my method 1. And here I will say also I will take the double. Let's make a number, a name of it, and instead maybe of what does it mean, this double? This double means what kind of the variable will be returned, because I want to return, and I want to return maybe a bool object, so either a true or false. I will make a bool here, which I will call to result, and per default call take it as a false. Sorry, not I cannot use result. It's sorry, result I can use. Return, it's forbidden. So return result. So every time I will be running this code, he should return me false. Of course, it's a stupid code, a stupid method, but we'll make it clever in a while, in a second. I will just yeah, in this method, we would like, for example, to check if this number is bigger than something, and if it is, then it should return as true or false. So let's say that we have two inputs, double number 1 and double number 2. And now I would like to make a code, an if statement. If number 1 is bigger than number 2, then result is equal to true. So yeah, let's test it. Let's test if it's working. So I will right now delete this this for loop. I will leave only for each loop. And inside this, I would like to test if this n is bigger than some kind of the number. Let's say that I will declare double limit, and I will set it as 3. So the limit is 3, and then I want to use this my method 1. So I will type my method 1, open the brackets, double number 1 and number 2, and you see here how important it is to make a smart names of your variables. I didn't make it smart. I make it stupid, and now I am wondering which one is should be bigger than another one. So one should be named to compare with, and for example, compare with that or something like this. Uh, I want to check if something is smaller than something. So I want to have an will be the input and the second will be the limit. So if n will be bigger than 3, then it should not add this to my point. So if number 1 will be bigger than number 2, then it should be bigger. Then it should be true. So my suggestion for you is either change it here. Number 1 should be smaller than number 2, or the most smart way would be just to named properly those variables. But anyway, now I can say that bool check if, or I will say even like if it is smaller equal to my method and limit. And then I can type if it is smaller, then add this point, because if needs just true or false statement. So if it will be smaller, then it will be adding. If not, then no. So I will run this code to check if it's working. I will give you the code for the super smart method. It should be on the chat box. The main code, give me a second. I want to copy just this part which is necessary. The other one you cannot, maybe don't want to change. Okay, so let's check if it's working. Let's take Grasshopper. I will run my component. So PC 2021 intermediate. I will type serious to be faster. And then let's see if I have points. So I have points and they are smaller than 3 because this is 0, 1, 2, 3. So it is working. Right now, if I will change, for example, the count to 20, I still don't see more points. But if I will change, for example, the step to 0.2, I will have it. Until this is smaller than 3 in the x coordinates, I have only those points. Okay, so this is how you can make a method. You can make as many methods as you want here, and you can also share them with the different components, because anyway they are a class, so we can make but we will do it after the break. Let's make maybe the break now for 15 minutes, and we are back at 2:15. So back at 14:15. I need to drink something. And if you have any questions, just let us know. Whew, okay. We are starting the last part. We will create a class, and we will try to move this class around our plugins. So we will create two new plugins. We will call it fourth and fifth components, and we will also create a class which will be described in an object. And then later we would like to assign some properties to this um, element. So let's start working. Later we will think it's my motto. So add new item, empty Grasshopper component for v6. I will call it. I will just use for plugin component. And then I will create a new one, add a new item, plugin components. Okay, so I have 4 and 5 plugin component on the site, and I also need to add a class. So I will go for the add and new item, and I will search for something which is called empty class or something like this. Oh, class. This is one. This is one. My plugin classes, I will call it. So as you can see, when I add my plugin classes, I found it again, add new item, and I go for just classic C# class. So probably if you type class, it will be the first one. So I use one of those and two ones which I was using previously. So now I have my plugin classes and fourth plugin and fifth plugin. I will now change the name of my plugin classes to something different. I will call it a column. And he's asking me, you are renaming a file. Would you also like to perform rename in this project to all references to the code element my plugin classes? And I will gladly say yes to that, because if I will not do that, I would have to manually write down column here. It's not a big deal when you have just one file and name, but you can imagine that later when we will be using this name of the class in the whole project, it will automatically shift this name to the new one. So we have a column, we have two components. This column is just a class again, but it's very important to be in the same namespace. So if I go for the fourth and fifth plugin, I will find my namespace as a first plugin. And it has to have this, by saying this, that we are working in the same namespace, which general namespace is also a class. But anyway, if we are in the same namespace, it means that generally we can communicate with each other. It means that the fourth plugin will be reading the class column properties. So what is defining that something is column or not in Grasshopper? First of all, let's say that we would like have a column to have the property of the string, which we called a name. So we will call it straight column, or sometimes curved column, whatever. I want to have it a name. So string name straight column. So the only thing which I want to here declare, it's not a specific value, but I want to just give a tip to the Visual Studio that my column will have a name. Now I want to also have a line, and it will be axis. And you see it's turning red. He is not allowed to read the line because it's generally the issue of the library which we are using. As you can see, when we are per default running the Grasshopper component, it is adding using Grasshopper kernel and using Rhino geometry. But when I run the column or the normal class, I don't see those libraries written here. So I will just copy this using Grasshopper kernel and Rhino geometry, Control C, into my column class. Now you see that this name has turned into forbidden word or already booked. It's turning into the green one. Yeah, I will zoom to make it visible better. So I added this using Grasshopper kernel and using Rhino geometry. Now I have a string which is name and line axis. What more? Maybe brep. We would like to hold an information about the brep. So from capital letter, it's a Rhino geometry, but from small, it can be a name. So I have a name, I have an axis, and I have a brep. This will be defining my column. Okay. Right now, I will make one component which will be creating this class, and the second component which will be reading this class. So let's go for it. So let's go for the fourth plugin component, and again I will change its name to make it more understandable for all. So I will go for a name which is saying create column. And unfortunately here, he didn't change the names here. So he's still with the classic one, which was on the beginning. I will manually change it to the create column. So I will do like this. So I Control C, Control V the name of it to have just the order in my script. So for plugin component, I will rename to create column. CC. Create a column class object. Category, I will take PC 2021. So I will not go further than this. And this will be subcategory advanced. Oh, it will be advanced. So let me just check if the PC I was doing with the yeah, 2021 and then advanced. Let's go for this create column. I will make it from small letter like the others, but don't care about this. So now I would like to have, let's say, the two inputs. One will be the point. The second will be the length of this point. So I will create parameter p manager add point parameter basic point BP a point in which I will or which from I will call it maybe sorry basic point of column, and then sorry should be of course gh param access, and I will go for the let's say item. and I will create another input, pmanager add number parameter. GH access item, and this will be height of the column. And you can now I will just create an output, and we wanted to make this output to be our own class, which we just created, which is a column name. Unfortunately, will have to use the most general one, which is called generic parameter. So there is no column parameter we just created, but yeah. So this is column C, our own class. So we have basic point height. I will just copy if all of you wants to have it. And let's write down the code. Variables on the beginning. It's point 3D. PT, new point 3D, 000. And then I will also make the one for the height, double height, equal to, let's say, 300. So then inputs, DA, get data, 0 will be referencing to PT. Remember, if it's just the one single element, you have to use ref. DA, it's get data, 1 referencing to H. So we have those two parameters, and now we would like to call it and also to create a class. So I would like to use a column. I already see that I have something like this. It's already see that it's turning green. Before I didn't create this column, he definitely was not able to do it. So what I have to do now is I want to create a column, which I will call, for example, C, new column, and then I opening and closing. But in general, I don't know what exactly this will do because I didn't make it possible to make it. So I will just build a solution and see if it doesn't have any errors. So I will build it. He somehow was able to do it, but yeah, one thing, if you don't know which to which this variable is referencing to, you can hold control, left control, then your cursor will turn into the hand, and then click on this column. So we see that this is referencing to the column, and now I would like to create this column. Or we have we have this class of the column the class file with our column. I will go back to the create column component, and what I would like to do is I would like to generally first I need to do it not in the class, but so I have a point. I need to create a endpoint, so point 3D and point equal to new point 3D, because I have to create a line which will be specifying the my axis of the line. So I need to create a new point, which will be generally moved from the basic point. So here I will just type ptx, pty, and here ptz plus height. So this is endpoint, and now I would like to create a line. I will call it axis, and I will say new line be from pt till ept. So if I will give as an input f point or a group of points, he will automatically extrude or move those points 300 from in the z coordinate system and create a line in between those 2 points. So I have a line which is called axis. I know I have a property in my column here, which is a line axis. I would like to now give this column this information that the line which I just created, it's exactly the axis of my column. So I will go to the create column. Instead of axis, I will call it a little bit different to not make a mess in your head. And then I will type C dot, and I would like to have this axis here. You remember when I am using PT, for example, I have the property X. This time I don't see it, although I declare it. And it is because my column has a different, or I have to make it public to be able to read it in different places. So I will add a keyword public to all the properties of my column. And I will go now to create a column, type C, and now I will have axis, brep, and the name. So I can type in the name that this class will be a straight column. It will have an axis, which I just created, and this will be this line. And the brep I still don't get right now, but I will do it in a second. Let's just try if how it will behave in the Grasshopper when I will run this solution. So I will make just an outputs da set data. Sorry, I will maybe paste you the column class. So maybe it was too fast when I was showing you. So here you have, I pasted into the chat box how the column class is looking. And also I will paste the code with, or maybe the whole code for the component, which I am just creating. So you can just Control A, Control C, Control V. Oh, it's way too long maybe, but yeah. So I am here with the DA set data. And what I want to do is I want to take and assign to the output, which is a generic parameter, my column. So I will type C. Easy, it should be quite easy, but I will build a solution, no errors. I will then start Rhino and Grasshopper. So we have a Grasshopper. Let's take a look. PC 2021 advanced, and then we have our first create column. I need a basic point. I will just create XYZ. I choose the vector XYZ construct point. I will add it here. I will also declare here 300 and run it. So do I see any line? No. What then I see as an outcome from my component? I will connect it to the panel because we know a priori that everything what we can create, we can change into the string. So we see that we create something which is called first plugin.column. So we create a class of column, and this column cannot be read by any kind of the plugin or component yet, because we didn't create one which will be reading it. But we will do it right now. So we know that we create our own class with our own properties, which we can modify, and we generally are able to send it, I will prove it in 10 minutes that we can read it in different component. Okay, let's try to do it then. I will now again break all, stop debugging for the whole, and I will go for the fifth plugin component. I will call it deconstruct column. I will rename it. Rename it. Control C. Nickname DC. Description deconstruct properties of column class. Okay, I will use here PC 2021 subcategory advanced. Operating on the classes are kind of the advanced. And what should be, I will just give you this one. You can just copy paste it. Did it? No, sorry. I think I just made something wrong. Oh, there you have in the chat box. And register input params. Let's go for the P manager. I will go add and again the input should be this class column, so it will be generic, free names, and then gh param access dot item. I will call it column. Shortcut is C, and this is our own column class. So we have this column, and now we would like to deconstruct it in the properties which we created. So we would like to have a P manager with add, for example, text, which will be the name. And this is name and whatever. It doesn't have to have the description. So P manager add line parameter param access item. I will call it access A and so on. And the last one which we have, but we didn't implement it yet, it will be P manager add prep parameter. Rep gh param access item. Okay, so I have three outcomes. So those three are generally exactly the same as those three in my class. And now I will just try to make them work. So deconstructing, it's quite simple. So there should not be any problems. First, I have to, of course, make variables. I have to use my column, C equal to new column. Then I am taking the input. DA get data 0 C reference. and then code, and then outputs. And to be honest, we can just set data 0 C. Here I will just type name, D A set data 1, it's C axis, and DA set data 2 C brep. So it is corresponding to all the properties. So this is the all code which I have to do. It's quite simple. I will just paste it into yours chat box. And since we don't have a brep, I will just skip it, put it in the comment at the moment, and I will just run the whole code again. So if I have a Grasshopper, yes, then PC 2021, we have advanced, deconstruct, and create a column. I'm creating a column, and then I am deconstructing it. Let's take those two. I will just create series. Oh, sorry, first XYZ construct point, basic point, height, let's say 20. It will be more visible at this part. I don't see any preview of this, but let's come here and I see my line. So also the name is called straight column. And here I just have my curve. So you see, I transfer the name, the string, and also the geometry description with just transferring my own class. Let's take a look if it will be working with series. It's still working. So although I make an item class as an input, he's not shouting like it would be with the C#. He just runs several times this one single component. So of course I could do it more efficient by just typing a list, and then I would be able to operate on them and set different heights for different points. But at this point, it was not necessary. So right now, let's try just to make a circular brep around to make a visualization of the brep, and also let's transfer it through this column class. So I will come back to my Visual Studio. Where it is? It's here. This time I will not stop debugging. I will just break. So the code is in the break mode. I will come back to my create column thing. I will turn off the one which I am not using. So first plugin. So I will have just column, deconstruct, and create column. And I'm going into the create column. If you want to find it, you have here a solution explorer. You can click on it. And you have here again the tree, data tree with different files. By the way, if you want to see where they are, because they are physically in one of the folders, you can just go and open folder in File Explorer. So here you have a first plugin, and here you have all the CS files. So I upload it in the mural, so later you can just take mine CS as files. Also, but I can also give you the whole component, and I will do that. So you will be able to just place your component in the plugin folder, and you will have all these things working. But of course, then you don't have the access to the code. The code is accessible only through the Visual Studio or the files here. Okay, let's make the brep. So to make a brep, let's see what we have here. I will type a brep and then brep create, and I have to generally see what we have here. I don't remember all the methods for doing it, so uh, I have to see what would be the best one in this case. We could try to create a pipe. Let's see what we have. A curve, a rail radius, local blending. This is bool. Probably we can set it up to the boolean, but then we have a lot of things which we maybe don't want to have. Maybe we'll just create from sweep. So we have a rail, shape, bool closed, and double tolerance. So we can try this one. And the last, I just want to be sure that there is no, okay, we have extrude. So also this could be a nice one. Curves, start, end. Uh, Maybe we'll just do the sweep. Let's try sweep. So we need a rail, shape, closed tolerance. So we need a rail, which is a curve. We need a shape. We need to, if it's closed, let's try to make it true. Tolerance, let's make it like some 4 digits after 0. So we have to have a curve, which is a rail. And we need to have a curve, which is shape. And remember when we were talking before, generally curve is a very general description of the geometry. Let's just, okay, one thing. If I going over, he's turning red because he, from the sweeping, will deliver us an array of the brep. Array is a different kind of the list. It's a list with the stiff number of the elements. You can make it by making these two rectangular brackets after the name of the type. You can make an array from any kind of the type, at least. Yeah. So you are operating on this exactly as on the lists, but it's a little bit more stiffer. Okay, the rail. The rail is generally our line. The shape we need, and here he's saying that, let's see, he cannot implicitly convert type Rhino geometry line to Rhino geometry curve. Okay, I understand that, but he will definitely be able to change from NURBS curve into curve, because NURBS curve it's almost one-to-one a curve description in the Grasshopper. So if I will type dot and change it to NURBS curve, he will be able to read it. Now the shape. The shape can be a circle. We can make this circle in the at the bottom point. So we need to implement a circle. I will say it, call it, oh, sorry, circle CI equal to new circle. And then let's see what kind of the constructors we have. We can make a circle from arc, radius, plane, radius, point, center, and the radius. This is one which I was looking for. So I will just type PT and then declare the radius. I will make it stiffly by setting it to 20. So, or we can make it here, double red equal to 10, and placed it here to make a cleaner code. And then again, the shape will be our circle CI, and I will again change it to the NURBS curve to be sure that the curve will be able to handle with it. So I have a rail, I have a shape. this one, it's not making any problems. I know right now that although this is an array, that he will create probably just one brep. So if I will go for the c.brep, I will take brep and the first position in this brep array. So since because normally you can make here, in some of the situation, this operation create from sweep could create not only one brep, but many of them. And since I am sure that from one line and one circle, he will create just one, so I am not even checking if there is any. I just know that he will create it, and I am taking the first one in the list because generally this list will be one. So what I have to do now to be because this is I assigned this brep. Now I would like to see it in the deconstruct. So I have to turn off this DA set data in the deconstruct column. The one which I created and I then put into comments now should be uncommented, and I will run continue. So I will recompute, and I have the bunch of the brep representation of my columns. So if I will go for the start, for example, step will be 500, count will be 8. I will also create 800, and here I will maybe place the 3. And this one I will just graft. I should have my grid of objects, columns. As you can see, they are saved. I can make a column, and then I have a list of the classes which I created by myself. The height I will set as 300, for example. So look how fast and clean the code it is when you are using classes of the objects, and you can read it later here. So this are brep, this is a curve, and those are the names of it. So if you would like to, for example, now create a second thing, let's say the volume, and also hold it here, then we can create another component which will be calculating the volume of those columns and reading it. But let's go back for a second to did somebody manage to make it? I know it's very messy on the beginning when you are starting to operating with the classes, but raise your hand if you at least tried to make it. Okay. Yeah, good. Some of you managed to make it. I think for some of you now, when they are doing it, they understand at least that we can minimize the size of the spaghetti which we are doing in the Grasshopper by doing if we rethink on the beginning how the classes could look like. Okay, so we have a column class here, and we have create column thing. I will go into create column. Remember when we are doing a point, for example, 3D, I will, stop the calculation, and I will go for the create column. When I have a point 3D and I am creating a new point 3D, then I have here 1 of 6. So I have a plenty of constructors, 6 constructors here. I would like to have also something like this with my column, that I am implementing a column which is in which I can just put, for example, already a name and the line and the brep, and I don't have to put a dot on every one of them. And I would like to create a new constructor. So let's do it. Let's go into the column. I will delete this point. It's not, it was just a case to explain you. And then in the class column, we can create something, a new constructor. So public, again, the name of the class. And here I have to capital brackets. And then inside here, he already says two references. Why he is saying this? Because I was using in create column this formula. And to be honest, I should not use it before I would stated it here. But the new version of Visual Studio, it's per default creating empty constructor. So I can call it empty constructor. And you can make as many constructors as you want. So if I will now take public again, column. So this one has created an empty instance of our object. Now I will create a little bit more complicated one. So I would like to first of all have a string there. So string name. And here I use a dashed line on the beginning, and this is quite common to use, but it can be generally any kind of the name, but different than this one. So I could call it text or something, but I like to use the dash line and name, and I think it's quite common to use. Later I am typing line, and again axis. So I am like taking also almost the same name, but with the dash line, and the brep, which with the dashed brep. Okay, and now the only thing which I have to do is now that name is equal to dashed name. Axis is equal to dashed axis. And the brep is equal to dashed brep. So I have a constructor which will be when I will put him a string on the first in the first place, he will assign it to this property of my class. If I will assign line, he will assign the line. So let's try to check how it is working. I will just give you this class column in the comment. You can take it from the chat box, and let's create this one. So new column, it's here. I will just delete everything here, or I will put it to the comment. So this is not working, and I will call it old version of constructor. And what I need now is to use a new version of the constructor, and the new I will use after brep generation. So after it's one more up. Also this I don't need. So new constructor, I will just say that column C equal to new column. And now I see I have two versions of my constructor. So one it's the empty one, which I was using before. The second one, it's this one which I just created, string name axis brep. So now I can just place here that this is circular column. Now he's waiting for the line axis, so I can just call it line, and then he needs just a brep, so I will go brep and 0 because he needs just one. So maybe I should even call it breps and 0 item. So you see, instead of typing, it would be the same as this: C name, C axis, and then C brep equal to brep breps 0. But then you would use 3 lines of code or 4 lines. Now I use just once, and also it's I think a little bit smoother to use. I will run and see if it's generally working. Recompute, and it's working generally the same. Now you can also assign methods to the classes, but this we will maybe try to make tomorrow. I think for today the most important things are done. I just want to come back for a second for how you are. Some of you will be doing master thesis, or so you want to develop some your tools and work with the matrices or different libraries which you can find, like the machine learning and stuff like that. You can generally use something which is called in the tool NuGet package manager, and let's or also go for the manage extensions. I will take a look where it is now. Maybe in the manage extensions, I will look for those exactly like we did with the Grasshopper. I will go for the MathNet if they are online, but I was sure that they are in the NuGet package console. Let's see. This maybe so I have to kill the process, the running process. So now in the tools, I have manage NuGet packages for solution. So for this specific component, if I would like to search for the, for example, MathNet library, which is giving you option to operate on the matrices and create like inversing, transposing of the matrices, you can just click here, say that I want to add it to this plugin, and click install. He will install this package for you, and you will be able to use this plugin. What is this MathNet numerics? It's generally, you can find it here, numerics. If you in the Google type MathNet, it have all this operation on the linear algebra, inversing matrices and so on. But it's working the same with, for example, Google OR tools, which are responsible for the machine learning and different ways of the implementing. And for example, you can use OR tools in a similar way. You can also because right now you see it added in the references, we should have something with the MathNet numerics. So right now, if I would like to use MathNet numerics, the only thing which I have to do is to type using MathNet, and already he see that I have the library. So that's generally what you have to do. And this is super simple in the Visual Studio, but also in the new version of the Grasshopper and Rhino. I will just run it. It's not so difficult to add the libraries to your C# made components. So if I will type Grasshopper, so without Visual Studio, you are still allowed to use, for example, MathNet numerics. If I will go for the C# script, I will right click on it. I will go for the manage assemblies, and here I can click add, and I just have to download from the net the MathNet numerics DLL, all, or for example, if you want to implement your plugin for the Revit, then you see I have the DLL files from which I take just from the Revit. So if I will just then drag it here, Revit API UI and Rhino inside, if you want to use also this one for starting your components with the Rhino inside, you click OK. And if you are running it, Then let's use this MathNet numerics because it will be easier to show than the Revit, but using MathNet. And unfortunately, he's not flexible as 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 the Visual Studios, so he's not helping you. So I will just use be smart and just copy it from the web page. How to you anyway have to declare it only once in your lifetime. So so it's not this one. Probably using MathNet linear algebra, and I go here MathNet numerical linear algebra. So I already added it, and now I can use it. So let's also be smart and just go for the matrices and vectors. And let's build, for example, a matrix, a random matrix of the size on 3 of 4. So let's click OK. He is not shouting, he's not turning red, so he knows about that he has this library, and I will just now take it out. We will see if he will be able to read it. So he even is able to read it. So he create a random matrix with the numbers inside. So if I will set it here, the integers, set data item as integer. And instead this 3 or 4, I will just place X and Y. I am able to create some kind of the matrix. Then I can, of course, use all those operation on it, like transposing or transpose and all other stuff. So it's not difficult to add the assemblies for your C# code. But I understand that, and tomorrow we will be mostly working in Visual Studio, and I really enhance you to use Visual Studio because it's much easier to control those things like the libraries and also using your own classes. It's really much more useful to deal with it and cleaner if you want to make it. Last thing which I will say today, and we can split up, go home and rest. It's that we can generally make a little bit more. We can generally make folders, and I will call it classes, for example. And here I will add a new folder which is called components. So since components are a little bit different than the classes, I will just move it to the classes, and then those one I will move to components, second and third. Then it's a little bit easier to control all the things now. So if I will just, I know where are the classes, so those are just holding the information about the objects, and those are components which are operating on those. Okay, I will give you the access to all those things. So generally I will copy paste, let's see, where is this open folder in file. I will just copy and paste it into the Google Drive. So you will be, all of you are able to see it. And see you tomorrow then. On Mural, I will just place, yeah. Okay, we will check if it's everything is working in this. Ah, yeah, he couldn't. Yeah. If I move it like here manually, I should make it on the beginning. Then I should uh, So no. Let's take a look. No. Wait a moment, I have too many windows opened. Yeah, but well, we will figure it out and give you the code which is running anyway.